I was imprisoned by my brother. Not a biological brother, I am the fake daughter in the fake heiress, and my brother is the real yen master. But my brother likes me. Originally, my brother planned to keep this secret to himself. But a true yen master can't resist alcohol, and it's easy to get drunk carelessly. Coincidentally, that day both the real heiress and I got drunk. When my brother came back and held me, confessing his love, the real heiress laughed drunkenly. Irene, I'm really drunk. I feel like my dream of being a couple has come true. As my brother held me and kissed me wildly, I could hear bits and pieces of his drunken confessions. No pedophilia, only after you became an adult. Irene, I love you. I dare not wake up and find myself in my brother's arms. When I opened my eyes, I found myself sleeping in my brother's room, held tightly by him. My groggy mind slowly cleared. The good news is, our clothes were not removed. The bad news is, I remembered his words from last night. Love? Dead serious. I tried to gently move my brother's hands away and pretend that nothing happened. But my brother, a 188 centimeters man who also liked working out, was holding on to me tightly. Struggling was death. Waiting for my brother to wake up was also death. Hesitation upon hesitation. An avoidant personality like mine had no idea what to do. Just as I was pondering, the arm that was hugging me loosened, and a large hand moved to lightly caress my waist. A deep, hoarse voice sounded, Irene, why are you in my dreams again? Thanks for the invite, pretending to be dead. My brother's advances became more intense. Crack. The crisp sound of his palm touching my face. Damn, I couldn't take it anymore. To avoid being exposed, I quickly closed my eyes, pretending to mutter in my sleep, where did this scoundrel come from? Even without looking, I could feel my brother's shock. The air in the room became tense. I pursed my lips, turned over, and then I fell off the bed. Oh my God. The sharp crash interrupted my plan to silently let my brother carry me back, pretending that nothing had happened. The look on my brother's face was complex when he pulled me up, and I was probably not much better off. I resisted the urge to curse, pulled my brother's sleeve, and coquettishly said as usual. Brother, I saw a set of antiques that I liked yesterday. I came to ask you to buy it for me. I didn't expect to end up in your bed after the alcohol hit me. Sob, 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 I know I was wrong, I won't drink alcohol again. He created this mess, yet I had to cover it up. Being the fake daughter is truly humiliating. My brother asked me, Irene, did you hear anything last night? I shook my head and changed the subject. Hear what? What could I have heard? Brother, do you not want to buy me that set of Song Dynasty official kiln ceramics? My brother's tone was indulgent. All right, I'll buy it for you. I sent a photo to my brother, then took the opportunity while he was on the phone with his secretary and ran away. I realized a major issue. I lied too quickly, forgetting that there were surveillance cameras at home. I couldn't believe that my brother would go through such a shock seeing himself carrying me into the room. Before everything could be exposed, I took all the jewelry and cash I had saved over the years and ran away. The consequence of stepping on the gas pedal was a car accident. In order to avoid a child who suddenly rushed out, I ended up crashing into the greenbelt. The hospital's lights were harshly white. The faces of the remnants of the Smiths were also harshly white. I lay in bed like a mummy. Despite having caregivers, my brother insisted on personally feeding me. The more delicately he fed me, the more careful he was, the more guilty I felt. Mainly, my mind would automatically insert an adapted line, whose love do you think you're accepting? It's the love of a young master. He betrays all ethics to love you and endure all pain for you, such a young master, loving what he couldn't have. Pitiable. Most importantly, I lay in the VIP ward of the hospital for over a month, and my brother practically moved both the bedroom and office to the hospital to take care of me. I saw him when I opened my eyes, closed my eyes, or even in my dreams, I silently shed 2 tears. Fortunately, once I recovered, my brother finally allowed other people to visit me. No, to inquire about my health. My childhood friend Peter brought a group of young masters and ladies to my bedside, shaking their heads. After Peter and the others finished cautioning me about safety, Jackson spoke. Irene, even the Smith's little tyrant has a day like this? I couldn't be bothered with this spoiled brat who I had punched numerous times for his foul mouth since childhood. Jackson continued to provoke. Your face is injured, and you're still arrogant? Well, I, as a young master, can reluctantly marry you. Although my body lay on the bed, my spirit always stood tall. But before I could say the 4 words, "I can't marry you," my brother walked in. Don't worry about Irene's marriage, Jackson. Unlike Jackson, a carefree playboy, my brother had already inherited the family business early on and expanded the market. He could be considered the true decision-maker of the Smiths. I thought Jackson would keep his mouth shut. But Jackson was someone who wasn't afraid of death. "Eric, is it because you're too controlling that Irene wanted to escape and caused the accident?" My brother's face didn't look good, veins popping on his forehead. The pressure he had cultivated from his high position made everyone shudder. Peter covered Jackson's mouth. "Come on, who doesn't know that Eric cares for Irene? Eric must want the best for Irene." "Ah, Jackson, your infamous reputation is well known. Even if you were involved with a starlet before, Eric definitely wouldn't consider you. Stop thinking about it." Everyone laughed to ease the awkwardness. My brother politely responded before dealing with business matters at the other end of the hospital room. The pressure still lingered. Lulu whispered to me with her lips, "Your brother is really scary." I nodded frantically. Upon finally being discharged from the hospital, before I could plan a new escape, my brother took me out and locked me in his private villa. He didn't touch me, he simply locked me, and I don't know what he was avoiding. He never showed up. I didn't even get a chance to try and reason with him. There were no means of communication whatsoever. Every time I approached the door, a group of security guards surrounded me. It was like trying to enter a holiday tourist attraction, bustling with people. I sighed and turned back to the villa, collapsing on the sofa. Suddenly, a light bulb flashed in my mind. I dragged myself to the door and fell to the ground convulsing. The security guards hurriedly called my brother. He finally came. I got up from the ground, tugged at my brother, and begged him to let me out. "Brother, I really can't be locked up anymore. Please let me out." He stared at me, making me inexplicably nervous. "What are you running from this time?" "Running away with which pretty boy?" This wasn't my first escape. The day before the Smiths' real heiress was brought back, 13-year-old me packed my bags, ready to leave. Because my biological mom was no good, she not only switched children but also abused the real heiress. When Mrs. Smith found out, a usually refined and sophisticated woman cried with snot and tears streaming down her face. She didn't say much harsh words, but I felt I couldn't stay in this house any longer. I didn't want that conscienceless biological mom. And she was already sent to prison by the Smiths. Alas, I was nothing but a soulless weed. I cried while packing, took 2 sets of clothes, pocketed 20,000 yuan. And even took the beef in the fridge on my way out the small gate. I wandered the city for 3 days and nights before my brother caught me. He was 18 that year, just starting his freshman year. He came back to find me upon hearing that I had disappeared. His handsome face turned green with anger. "Where are you going?" I had just finished eating McDonald's, hadn't wiped my mouth, and ended up smearing oil all over his black sweatshirt. I hugged him and cried. "Oh, brother, I have no face to stay at home anymore." He pulled out tissues, wiped my tears and mouth, and comforted me softly. "It's not your fault, don't blame yourself." In the end, my brother carried me back home. In the Smiths' old mansion, Mr. Smith sat on the sofa sighing, Mrs. Smith wiped her tears, and a frail girl twisted her clothes on the edge of the sofa. Once I returned home, the timid girl looked at me, and I rushed over, knelt down with a thud, and slapped myself. Sob, 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 "Sister, I am not a good person, I'm sorry." The whole family was shocked. Since then, the Smiths' real heiress returned, and the Smiths gained a foster daughter. That's me, truly. Out of guilt, I became a lackey to Kathy, the real heiress. A bootlicker, some might say. I had always been reckless. Now, as a foster daughter, I was even more unscrupulous. I beat up all the students at school who made things difficult for Kathy, including the foolish son of the principal. When my brother dragged me and Kathy back, I held onto my brother's leg. One person does the deed, the other takes the blame. My sister didn't do anything. If you're going to punish anyone, punish me instead. Although the Smiths were a large and powerful family, my brother knew that the rebellious me was not someone who could be restrained by the Smiths' parents, so he arranged for me to transfer schools. He tied me to his side since then. I loved and feared my brother. He genuinely cared for me but didn't hesitate to punish me. I managed to complete my junior and senior high school studies decently and got into a prestigious university. Even in college, my brother and I continued to live outside. The university curfew was 11:30, but my brother set it at 10. As Kathy stuffed the last bite of barbecue into her mouth, she joked, "Irene, you're so pitiful." It's funny, did I not know that myself? After all, we're siblings. As a result, while they partied, went to bars, and sang in KTVs, I received a call from my brother before 10 o'clock. Before, I used to think my brother had a fatherly attitude. But now, it's completely different. I really want to delete all the brother-sister romance novels in my bookmarks. I can't stand them anymore. I didn't respond for a long time. My brother leaned in, his tone icy. He said, "Who is it?" I'll break his legs. I couldn't even look my brother in the eye. I meekly defended myself in a low voice. He's not a pretty boy. Really not. I can swear. The phone suddenly rang loudly. My brother glanced at it, but didn't answer. I cautiously pointed to the lit-up screen. Bro, it's Dad's call. Are you really not going to answer? I lifted my head and met my brother's gaze. Quickly lowered my head again. My brother's hand caressed my head, gently following my hair, his tone softening. Irene, you still haven't told me what you're running away from. The world is so big, I want to go explore. I said, starting to feel guilty. My brother moved closer, his warm breath clearly felt. Each word felt like it was echoing in my ear. Isn't it because you found out something? I took a step back, waved my hand. Found out what? Just drunk. I didn't say the incident was related to being drunk, Irene. Oh, my brother was fishing for information. I pretended to be strong, acting calm like an old dog. I guessed. My brother's hand slid down, sending chills down my spine. I instinctively moved away. My brother smirked, a bit disheartened. Irene, you never used to resist my touch before. And I saw the surveillance footage. I ran out, but my brother caught me and carried me back to the villa. He placed me on the big bed in the bedroom. I got up and hugged my brother's legs, crying uncontrollably. Bro! You are my only brother. We grew up together since childhood, closer than siblings by blood. I really can't accept it. My brother didn't say anything. I changed tactics. At least let me take it slow. Not today, I'm not ready. After a while, I heard a sigh from above. So you really found out. I'm sorry. But Irene, don't punish me by running away from home. Let go, I won't touch you. When my brother left, he did it lightly. The security guards were also withdrawn. My brother's secretary returned my phone and computer to me. But my ID, passport, and other documents were missing. I asked the secretary, "Where are my documents?" The secretary pushed up her glasses, looking serious. "They are in the CEO's office safe. Mr. CEO said he'll give them back to you when you don't feel like running away." I returned to the Smith's house. Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith were in Norway, watching the northern lights. Kathy took the opportunity to bring her girlfriend of 2 years home, and they were all over each other in the living room. Without my ID, I had to stay at a hotel. But I couldn't resist the fact that I had a room near my company's branch. What was once a carefree and beautiful life now felt suffocating. Could it be Stockholm Syndrome? Moreover, I still dreamt about my brother. Sometimes it was him braiding my hair as a child, other times helping me with my homework. Once in a university reunion, when my brother didn't come to pick me up, I ended up chatting with Bob. Bob was the principal's silly son I once fought with. Bob explained, "Irene, I bullied Kathy not because I didn't like her, but exactly because I liked her." I raised an eyebrow at Bob's explanation. "So your way of expressing love back then was to pick fights with people?" Bob chuckled. "I was immature back then." Mocking Bob quietly in his ear, "Disrespecting others' love doesn't deserve a happy ending. Your love, buried, carried away. Next one please." I looked up and saw my brother. His emotions were difficult to read, but I could sense a hint of sadness. He called out to me, "Irene, it's time to go home. Come home." In my dream, my brother led me away. The colors suddenly faded, leaving just me and my brother. In the void of space, my brother's appearance began to disperse. Empty. Then the colors reappeared. In a vast wilderness, my brother stood far away, running towards me across mountains and rivers. He said, "Irene, don't leave me." When I woke up, I couldn't fall back asleep. The next day at work, as I entered the office, the leather chair was facing away from me, revealing a perfect forearm and prominent bones of the hand. Long and powerful fingers tapped casually on the desk. My brother heard me come in, hung up the phone, turned towards me and said, "Irene, stop the nonsense, come home with me." I shook my head, refusing. But my brother ended up moving into my house. His reason was, "You keep eating outside, it's not hygienic." The housekeeper will come in early, prepare the ingredients, and leave. When I got home, I saw my brother focused on cooking in the kitchen. Many people didn't know that the ruthless and decisive business tycoon at work personally cooked at home and was extremely skilled at it. Kathy used to come over for meals, but my brother eventually sent her away with a black card. I always wondered why he wasn't willing to share a meal with multiple sets of chopsticks. Thinking back to the strange smile Kathy had when she received the black card, she probably knew something. So, my brother and I maintained an oddly harmonious relationship under one roof. He cooked, and I savored each bite. We avoided talking about the past incidents. But my brother, nearing 30 and still unmarried, made Mrs. Smith very anxious. On the phone, Mrs. Smith lowered her voice. "Irene, don't cover for your brother. Has he ever brought men home?" I truthfully answered, "No." After a moment of thought, Mrs. Smith said, "Irene, it's not working out for your brother to stay single and not date, right?" I almost choked on my saliva. Mrs. Smith's voice carried a hint of helplessness. "Don't get all worked up, let me analyze for you. Your sister is a lesbian, your brother refuses to marry, and you never date. Although we don't have thrones in our family, there's a lot of money to inherit. Grandson, granddaughter, or a grandchild, give us one. Irene, why don't you try talking to your brother, Mom? Come on, you're not blood siblings, and besides, it's not trendy now for sibling romance or fostering relationships. If you two were serious, Dad and I wouldn't object. Or, have you both already?" Mrs. Smith's words were filled with infinite imagination. I vehemently denied it. But at night, I dreamt about my brother again. He pressed me down, raised my hand above my head, and whispered in my ear, "Irene. Irene. Don't be nervous, Irene, relax." The moon danced among the clouds. When I woke up, the person involved regretted deeply. Regretting that I had ample theoretical experience from reading a wide variety of books, I couldn't face my brother anymore. Whenever I was near him, I would remember the absurd dream from that night. I would imagine how those hands had touched my body. Over and over again. After finding out from multiple sources, I sneaked into my brother's office while he was in a meeting. I tried my brother's safe password. Not my birthday. I tried the day Kathy appeared in the Smiths' household, which was also the day I first ran away from home. The safe opened, but I hadn't found anything yet. Suddenly, someone pushed the door open. I cursed inwardly, the soundproofing is really good. Luckily, I quickly closed the safe, changed positions, and put on a fake smile, looking welcoming to the newcomer. Sure enough, it was my brother. He noticed me and closed the door, slowly approaching me. "Irene, why did you think of coming to see your big brother at this time?" I kept smiling and thought of an excuse. "To have you sign a document." My brother's gaze scanned my empty hands, landed on the safe. He walked towards it. "Oh no! If I'm caught, there's no escape." In a moment of heated rush, I hugged my brother. He froze. With determination, I kissed my brother, feeling his body stiffen. I brazenly kissed his neck, remembering the mess in the safe, the documents almost in my hands, and the dream. My brother's breathing grew heavier. But he still asked me, "Irene, do you really not regret this?" I answered him by biting his neck. The last strand of reason snapped. My brother scooped me up and led me into the office's adjoining rest area. "Irene, be good, help your brother take off his glasses." I did as told. And then, my brother's kisses rained down heavily. Fingers entwined, close ear whispers. My brother repeated, "Irene, I'm so happy, Irene." He might not have been satisfied with his first performance, but he was especially passionate afterwards. It was a flurry of emotions, a mix of pleasure and pain, and I entrusted myself to my brother even for bathing. He rarely smiled like that. Holding me. Extremely careful, as if holding a precious treasure, he delicately wiped away any traces. Upon opening my eyes again, I was in bed, alone. There was a cup of warm water by the bed with a post-it note. "Irene, remember to drink the water when you wake up. Brother has an urgent meeting, he'll come for you later. I walked out shaking my legs and successfully got my documents. I secretly found Kathy and asked her to take care of my branch company and told her to take good care of my parents and our brother. She whispered to me, "You must have felt something reading those romantic novels I recommended, right? They are top-notch selections." With tears in my eyes, I replied, "Baby, you may not have step-siblings. But I do. I paused for a moment, feeling a bit silly. Are you implying that you want to be with me? Kathy threw both herself and the luggage out. That damn heiress was truly capricious. I sent a message to everyone that I would be out of touch for a while. I headed straight to Barcelona. It was the perfect place to escape from some people and some things in a foreign land. My brother didn't follow me. The sunshine in Barcelona was nice, but the food made me feel like I was about to meet my doom. If I were to see ghosts in Europe, they would probably be vampires. I wanted to go home. I wanted to eat the food my brother cooked. I was ready to buy a ticket home, but thinking about my brother, it felt like too great a sacrifice. After 3 months in Barcelona, I finally logged onto Message. Numerous messages poured in, with Kathy's 99 plus messages at the top. She was frantically sending the same message. Irene, what happened to our brother before you left? I replied, what are you talking about? Brother is not answering his phone, not replying on message, and isn't taking care of the company, just hiding in your house. Dad can't manage in the company anymore, so he sent me to check on our brother. The moment I opened the door, our brother hugged me, called out my name halfway, and then held back. And then our brother cried. He actually cried. The messages kept coming, but I didn't want to look at them anymore. I logged out and found my brother's message. There were also 99 plus messages. Irene, where did you go? Did I handle things too roughly and hurt you? Irene, stop messing around. Come home quickly. Don't leave your brother. Brother was wrong, brother doesn't want anything, please come back, okay? Irene, I'm sorry. If my love troubled you, I will try to take it back. As tears fell on my hand, I realized I couldn't ignore my brother. I wasn't happy in Barcelona for the 3 months. I walked through the streets alone, went to Camp Nou to watch the matches, and when faced with exciting plays, I couldn't help but say, brother, look, this pass is really good. But there was no brother in the world of red and blue. Amidst the noise, I tasted loneliness. The stars on the dome of the Sagrada Familia shone brightly. With the interplay of light and shadow, dust floating, I reached out but grasped nothing. Only solitude remained. I missed my brother, missed him greatly. I no longer wanted to care about worldly ethics, other people's judgment, or opinions. Why can't we face our desires in this lifetime, as long as we don't break the law or morals? My brother loved me, and I couldn't be without him. It was painful to be apart. So, I hoped my brother's wishes would be fulfilled. What was wrong if what he desired was me? As the plane crossed mountains and seas, I returned to my brother's home. As soon as the door opened, I heard my brother's voice. Didn't I tell you not to bother me? My brother didn't look over, just drinking alcohol sip by sip. I walked over, took the bottle from his hand, and called out, brother. My brother's eyes, unfocused, suddenly lit up upon seeing me. He held my face and lightly kissed the corner of my lips. Irene. I told you I would dream of you when drunk. Looking at the man who had slimmed down since my departure, I couldn't help but sigh. Brother, this is not a dream. My brother didn't believe me, rambling on, fueled by alcohol. You're lying to me, you clearly don't want me anymore. Brother, I'm not lying, I'm back. I took my brother's hand and placed it near his heart. I'm sorry. I will never leave again. My brother's fingers trembled slightly, his eyes reddening, before pulling me into his embrace. The scorching tears streamed down his face as he called my name, and I responded each time. Outside the window, the weather changed, thunder roared, followed by a gentle spring rain, nourishing everything. My brother held me, begging me to love him. I was awakened by my brother. His dark eyes were filled with disbelief. I mumbled, buried my head in his embrace, and said, brother, I have jet lag, let me sleep a little longer. He didn't move, didn't say anything more, allowing me to snuggle close. When I woke again, I was nestled in my brother's arms. I coquettishly said to my brother, brother, I want to eat the food you make, I miss this taste so much in Europe. My brother never refused me, he kissed my forehead, got up, and walked to the kitchen. As the scent molecules spread, my thoughts seemed to span a river of time. It blurred the line between past and present. Just like many years ago, I loudly proclaimed in the living room, Irene loves her brother the most. The light of the setting sun shone through the window, casting a warm orange hue. The leaves outside rustled in the wind. My brother looked at me through the light beam. His eyes held a myriad of emotions, but he couldn't speak. He merely uttered a soft and shallow good night. I laughed with tears falling, lifted my head, wiped away the tears with the back of my hand, and leaped into my brother's arms. I said, "Brother, let's be together." My brother's arms tightened around me. My heart beat wildly against his chest. Finally, I heard a slightly trembling good coming from his chest that traveled through one intersection after another. Passed through one memory after another. Crossed the long fog until the dawn came. Dusk settled and the lights flickered. My brother held me on the balcony. The night wind was cool, and I witnessed a shooting star fall. My brother rearranged the tousled hair blown by the wind, then held my hand and pleaded, "Irene, I want to tell everyone that we are together." I replied with a smile, "Okay, let's inform Mom first." It's inevitable. The news of the Smith's son and adopted daughter being together was bound to cause a stir in the circle. Mrs. Smith's voice over the phone trembled with excitement. "No problem, leave public opinion to me. I just want to hug my granddaughter, and I can reluctantly accept my grandson. When are you getting married?" I've been waiting, from Irene being 20 years old to Irene being 23. Eric, you're too slow. You should have confessed earlier. The kids would be calling you Dad by now. I've been worried for you both. I took the phone and said, "Mom, I'm with Brother." I said I was right next to him. My mother responded, "Ah? What? Signals are weak here." My brother rarely smiled. Faintly through the phone, I could hear Mr. Smith's complaints. "Forget about grandchildren, you better make Eric and Irene return to the company. I can't keep working overtime." Mrs. Smith, in frustration, sent dozens of big red envelopes in the family group chat. With thousands of dollars in each, I managed to grab $28.75. I went crazy in the group chat. "I'm up against you rich folks." The notification sound went off incessantly. Messages informed me of large sums being transferred into my account. My brother's transfer made the previously affluent pseudo-heiress even wealthier. The notification sounded again. It was Mrs. Smith's message. "Have you seen the online public opinion about you too? Don't worry, let me handle it. It seems someone posted about us, and even employed a water army. #stepdaughter-in-law trended on social media." I glanced at the post. The Smith's son and adopted daughter's happy event coming soon. Is it true love or a forced marriage? The comment section was filled with various opinions. Unknown to the whole story, I chose not to comment. Amid the impact of the Smiths' stock due to public opinion, Jackson messaged me, "Irene, being with Eric is really nauseating. How can siblings be together? First of all, my brother and I are not related by blood. Secondly, the country has no objections, and my parents also support it. Finally, you are a Pacific Police, why do you care so much?" I paid off the past scandals of the little stars that Jackson had been involved with, and they went crazy exposing him. Jackson was originally an illegitimate child who rose to power, and now he's struggling even more in the Chin family. I had someone trick Jackson into an alley, where he was beaten up by his ex-girlfriends while wearing a sack over his head. Dealing with this idiot who had always degraded himself in front of me since childhood made me feel like the world was a better place. I rubbed my sore hands from signing documents and ran to my brother's office to beg for sympathy. "Bro, my hands hurt from signing these documents." My brother felt sorry for me and rubbed my hands. "If you can't finish them, just bring them over, I'll help you. Don't do this, bro. Promise me one thing first." "What is it?" "You have to promise me first." "I promise you everything except separation." My brother's eyes were sincere and burning with a raging fire. I smiled and took out a ring, placing it in his hand. "Bro, let's get married." Since the public opinion had been fermenting, I could feel the hidden panic beneath my brother's calm demeanor. He was afraid. Afraid that public opinion would cause me to leave again. He might not be able to handle another separation. I wanted to give him what I could. My brother's fingertips touched my palm, tingling. After a while, my brother's voice choked up, "Irene, if you put it on, you can't go back on it." I won't go back. As discussions about my relationship with my brother heated up among netizens. The official blog of the Smiths Enterprise issued a statement, "Non-arranged marriage, respecting every love that doesn't disturb others." The accompanying image was a chat screenshot of Mrs. Smith introducing blind date candidates to my brother for the past 5 years. From various bloggers' revelations, I roughly understood the situation. In simple terms, Eric fell in love with his adopted sister, hesitated to declare it, but also didn't want to get married and hurt other girls. Fortunately, some circumstances later brought the two together. Perfect match. With the reversal of public opinion, the Smiths' stock unexpectedly rose instead of falling. The official Smiths Group blog announced the news of my marriage to my brother. It received a wave of blessings. Mr. Smith returned to work at the company. This time, my brother and I were going to Iceland to see the northern lights. Before leaving, I lay on the couch watching my brother pack his luggage. Actually, being a happy little dog by my brother's side made me really happy. When my brother finished packing, I reached out for a hug. He lifted me up. I took off my brother's glasses, caressed his face, and kissed him. A room full of tenderness. I never care about the destination of a trip, but I care about the person by my side during the journey. My brother always takes care of me very well. Under the dazzling northern lights like a dream, I don't know who said I love you first, followed closely by I love you too. Laughter lingered in the wilderness for a long time. Behind the cold wind, someone held my hand. Warmth. And the colors on the ice and snow witnessed every moment of love. May everyone have the courage to love.